Assalamualaikum and good day to you. Today we will bring you into the immersion of knowledge on Riba. We will discuss how the implementation in the prohibition of Riba during the Prophet's time can be used to eliminate the practices of Riba nowadays. In this documentary, the discussion is made on basis of prohibition of Riba through Al-Quran about reducing the practice of Riba in the contemporary era. We will also discuss how the prohibition of Riba can reduce negative impact on social development. Before Islam, the nature of Asabiyah was prevalent, making the tribes having their own way of life and laws, and have a ranking between tribes that makes some tribes more powerful. This causes tribal environment from various aspects, including financial force, tribal, political, and harsh control of small tribes, grouping dominated in the era. There were no moral virtue practices because of pride, desire, and greed to be on top hierarchy with power. They want to be respected, and thereby, in order for these tribes to attain anything, a selection of deceitful, pervert, and monetary practices has surfaced. Mecca, despite having many residents, the people in one society were facing a huge change. On top of that, the society, especially the agriculture and business workers, were facing the money crisis by getting paid low income. Because of that, the society was born with debt around their necks because they did not have enough money to pay for taxes and many more. They need the money instantly, so they were involved in Riba. But it means that they were according to lending with usury and buying on credit, and hence Riba surfaced with the purpose of deferring debt, resulting in a method by which the creditor utilized their debtor in needs. All whilst this circumstance has resulted in some unfortunate incidents. For instance, a certain ritual suicide is discovered to occur sometime, meaning of if a man was not capable of paying off his debt or ended up losing his property, he would isolate his family, including himself, from the tribe, locking and starving themselves to death. Specifically, among them were a few bankrupt traders and businessmen. The Prophet Mohamed last sermon in the farewell pilgrimage is regarded as something unforgettable for mankind. It was as the pinnacle of his constant and persistent sermon about Islam. In it, the Prophet primarily mentioned three crucial points: the fundamental belief in Allah, the morality and ethical laws, and the laws of fairness. Prophet Muhammad highlighted justice on economics by announcing firmly on Riba is haram and sanctifying life, wealth, and property. Allah has prohibited you from taking Riba. Thus, all Riba responsibility shall be with henceforward. The Prophet said in his farewell speech regarding interest, and hence the Riba activities among Jahiliyyah is revoked. The first riba was even from Prophet Muhammad's uncles, Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib. It was banned completely. The money belonged to the person who earned it, and the person will hardly produce or endure injustice. Indeed, Allah has decreed that any interest will be unlikely there. The Quran contains 12 verses about riba altogether. They are divided into two categories. The first few verses discredited it. Other 10 verses were later disclosed and specifically banned riba. Stage 1 started with the revelation of the Quranic verses in Surah Al-Ram. This verse is a direct advice that riba has no profit with Allah. The verse came in the context of sustenance and recommendation of spending on relatives, the poor, and welfarers. According to the Quran commentators, this verse applies to those who give others to receive greater benefit in returns, such seemingly goods that are meritless and deserve no reward from Allah, since He knows the real intention behind such allegedly good deeds. Basically, riba is prohibited, and we would have the belief that our reward is with Allah, the Almighty, who will surely multiply it for us even more than what we deserve, because He is the more generous. second stage, two verses in Surah An-Nisa were revealed. These verses take one aspect from a story about Jews, even without directly prohibiting the interest. Allah advises the believer to avert a similar position by describing the tragic event that the Jews faced because they did not obey the order. They were condemned from taking riba when they were forbidden from taking it. One point to emphasize is that the fact that riba was forbidden in Islamic revealing holy wording as well as the holy statement was innately the same from the beginning, aiming to bring justice and eliminate unfairness from the world. In the third stage, the following Quranic verses were revealed. Surah Al-Imran, ayat number 130 to 132. In these verses, Allah prohibits the believers from dealing with riba and from devouring the property of others through illegal means, as they used to do during the pre-Islamic period. Also, Allah commands the believers to have pity in their heart so that they may be successful in this life and the hereafter. The believers are also threatened with hellfire and are warned against it in clear words. In short, these verses enjoin the believers to keep away from riba if they desire their own welfare. Finally, in the fourth stage, 6 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah were revealed declaring the absolute and strict prohibition of riba in Islam. These verses include verses 275 to 281. The verses are categorically forbidding riba of all forms and rates as ordained by Islam. They came in the context of speaking about spending in the cause of Allah, giving in charity, abolishing differences between the rich and the poor through forbidding extravagance, and declaring riba as one of the means of blocking the institution of spending in the cause of Allah. All this confirm the ethical dimension behind the prohibition of riba, as well as the social and integral dimension among members of the Muslim community. The verses discuss those taking riba. They establish a clear difference between trading and riba. They require Muslims to terminate all forms of riba, instructing them to take only the principal sum of the debt and abstain from taking even the principal money in case the debtor is in difficulty.
There are many contracts in the Islamic financial system that fulfill Sharia ruling. The first contract is Mudarabah. Mudarabah is a type of financing which is between two parties consisting of an investor who offer financial resources to a second party, which is the entrepreneur, to finance a certain firm. Profits are subsequently divided between the two parties in accordance with some agreed ratio. But if they are loose, the investor bear all the financial losses and the entrepreneur bear operating losses. The next contract is Musyarakah. Musyarakah is defined as an arrangement in which two or more parties establish a joint commercial venture and all contribute capital, labor and management as a general rule. Profit and losses from the musyarakah are divided among the parties according to a agreed ratio. Musyarakah is the best contract for financing private or public firm as well as project financing. Musyarakah is defined in Islamic banking as a cooperative venture between an Islamic bank and a customer or commercial firm for certain operation. Murabaha is an Islamic instrument used in trading operation for the purchase and resale of capital goods and other commodities by institutions such as bank and enterprise. The customer supplies the bank with the specification and price of the goods to be purchased or imported under the Murabaha contract. The Islamic bank investigate the application and gather information about the specification and price of the good, with a particular emphasis on the price and payment term. When the bank and its customer reach an agreement on the term of transaction, the bank buy the goods or commodities and resell them to the consumer. The bank profit is mutually agreed upon as a profit margin. Istisna is a new approach in Islamic finance, characterized as a manufacturing contract that permit one side to get industrial item with either an upfront cash payment and postpone delivery or defer payment and delivery. This strategy has a big advantage in that the cost price is prepaid or deferred as installment to generate a product at a lesser price than the cost of purchasing the entire product or building. The next discussion is about how the pace of prohibition of riba in the Prophet time can be used to eliminate the riba practicing nowadays. The beginning of prohibition, as well as the first phase, is described in Surah Ar-Rum, verse 39, which was revealed at Makkah era. This verse unequally tacitly gives suggestion of not dealing in riba rather than outright prohibiting it. As in this contemporary time, awareness campaign of prohibition of riba can take place at the first point to give awareness to the Muslim and non-Muslim about the prohibition by Allah on riba practicing. Every party in the country should be cooperate to each other in order to make it successful in future. As a government of our country, they must act a big role model to their people by make a new policy in future about how to avoid riba in their daily transaction. Not only that, the government also must act smart by provide an alternative contract or system that follow the Sharia ruling. As a financial institution, they should advise their customer about the product provided. They must explain on every aspect of their product to make it clear to the customer, so the customer have enough information to make decision on what product they want. The second phase in revelation of prohibition of riba in foregoing faith is also recalled. It is disclosed during the Madinah era that the second phase of riba verse revelation is clarified in Surah An-Nisa verse 160 to 161. Even without directly prohibiting the interest, Allah advised the believers to avoid a similar position by describing the tragic event that the Jews faced because they did not follow the order. The second phase, we can take a precaution by explain the consequences of practicing riba in their life. As discussed above, riba lead to many negative effects in social development. Social development consists of individual, society, and affect the economy of that country. It's proof that riba give a bad impact compared to a positive outcome of the practices of riba. The third phase in the evolution of riba prohibition, this phase began when Allah revealed specific part of the Holy Al-Quran in a sequential order, together with content integrity. For the very first moment, this disclosed verse Ali Imran 130 determined the riba al-jahiliyah as an exceedingly remorseless usury. From this stage, we can suggest the solution by giving fine to those who still practice riba in the transaction. If the person use the product or contract that still consists of riba, they must pay triple where it consists of additional payment of their loan and the fine payment imposed to them. But if they avoid using the riba contract and trying to move to another alternative contract that fulfill the Sharia ruling, they will be rewarded by tax exemption. The final phase of riba was revelation intel verse 275 to 281 in Surah Al-Baqarah that were disclosed against at Madinah. The verse concerning lawbreaker of the prohibition of riba has a remarkable and immensely powerful phrasing, unlike other verses in the Holy Al-Quran regarding sin or prohibitory that include gambling. From this phase, as an authority of a country, the government who govern the country can take a decisive action to whom still practicing riba in the transaction. The government can make a law that impose to the people who still practice riba in their daily life, such as arrest them or blacklist their name. The government also can ban any financial institution that still serve riba in their product. It can be by cannot renew their permit to operate their institution in future. The impact of practicing riba can be considered spiritually, socially, and economically. Riba, by its nature, is an impediment to society, moral, social, and economic development. In this discussion, the focus points are on spiritually, socially, and economically. First and foremost, riba activity exploit the poor and the needy people. This can be seen when the wealthy people become creditors, delay their present earning to earn from the interest of the loan given to the debtors in the future. Therefore, it increases the future income of creditors and reduces the future earning of the debtor. There are no civilization or society can ever become secure and robust if its members' mutual relations are based on selfishness and self-interest. If the rich in any society believe that impoverished people exist just to provide them with an opportunity for exploitation, there will be a clash of interests that will end in the dissolution of that society or community without a doubt. This will result in class conflict. Individual members of a society or community, on the other hand, will undoubtedly strengthen it if they base their relation on mutual pity and sympathy and treat each other with charity. The focus of this writing is on the effect of riba on the economy. There are 7 effects discussed in this research. The negative impact are reduced economic productivity rate, money supply, negative impact on the performance of capital in small businesses, business risk, excessive profit making, instability in market demand and supply, and the last one is reduced circulation of wealth.